Welcome to Conversations in Foundational Health. Tonight I'm really excited because my friend and a healthcare provider that I really look up to is my guest, and it is Amber Keating. Welcome, Amber.
Hello.
So I met Amber in my yoga training, and she impressed me first of all because I did a medical therapeutic yoga training, and she was the only one that wasn't a physical therapist. And I just loved the fact that she stepped into something that was very medically based in the physical medicine and engaged with it. It did turn out that our training had a lot to do with lots of interesting stuff on the mental side and the energetic side, so it worked out great. So I do want to welcome you and thank you for talking today with our audience. And I guess I want to just hear a little bit of how you got started and really what made you decide to take that course. I think that's an interesting aside.
Yeah. Okay, so I've been a therapist since I guess 2002, 2003. I graduated in '02, really got a full-time therapy job in '03. Um, so long ago. Um, and I remember saying to my colleagues, I don't have a thing. I had a friend who was really into early, childhood care and a friend who was really into medical issues. And I was like, I don't have a thing. I don't know what I want to specialize in. And then I think I took a yoga class for the first time in a couple of years. I was really into yoga, but hadn't taken a formal class. And I took a class and started crying in my class. And I was like, what on earth is happening? And my yoga teachers couldn't explain it. I mean, they had like some language of like, oh, like hip openers tend to access this feeling. And I was like, but tell me why. And so I went searching because the yoga teachers I had couldn't explain it. And I just went searching for people who were interested in this realm. And I really value research and science. Like, I'm very energy and spirit and connection. And then I'm really science oriented as well. So I found Ginger Garner's program and was blown away. I was like, oh, somebody who actually has documented scientific research in all of these things and it's all about yoga. What? And I ended up emailing her and saying, can I join your program? I know I'm not really qualified the way other people are, but can I join? And she was like, hey, if you want to try to keep up, go ahead. And so I did.
On that is awesome. And you came all the way from California to take the class with all of
I
the
know.
PTs. And we're like, oh, we have a mental health person here. This is awesome. Well, I'm glad that you came, and I know that you use this in a lot of ways because I know you teach yoga, and I know you learned Spanish so that you can teach yoga in Spanish. And you're learning Irish as well, or uh, are you
Yes.
doing yoga?
I that's a little more like on the sidelines. I haven't practiced recently, but I decided I wanted to learn Italian and Irish because I'm got an Irish background and my husband has an Italian background and we would love to travel to both countries and it would just be really special to me, especially as a white person in the United States,
Yeah.
to be like, I have a culture, like I have a background before uh,
Yeah.
our problematic histories began.
So where do you see the future of your field, mental health, and mine, physical health, connecting in the future? Because I think there's nothing, one of the biggest things I do with my patients is talk to them about stress and breathing. It's the number one exacerbator of low back pain and neck pain is stress. And I think so many ways you can really remedy that or start to through breath and through mindfulness. But how do you see your physical and mental health merging in the future?
I feel like even now, as a mental health clinician, I'm often recommending to people mindfulness activities and exercise because I'm like it's all connected, and I feel like mental health especially knows that more now than ever before. I feel like 20 years ago, even we weren't talking about this stuff. Maybe even 10 years ago, it was like, ew. that's kind of new, weird information. Now it's like everyone is, it seems to me anyway, talking about how physical health, mental health, everything connects. And so, and I feel like people are more receptive too, maybe because they're seeing Instagram and TikTok, videos and posts about this kind of stuff. But I'm like, let's talk about the exercise you're getting. Let's talk about the food you're eating. Let's talk about how are you sleeping at night? And if you're not sleeping, then we need to get some sleep going for you because you know,
Yeah. So in a way, you're taking exactly what you did in the yoga training and just bringing it to your practice.
yeah,
So the future is an integration where people see it's not just mental, but mental has to do with health. And I read a study about how so much of your serotonin is made in your gut, and,
yeah,
and these things that are really important to mental health have a big branch in physical health, and I think that's
yeah. Yeah,
so.
and the gut microbiome stuff too is so, I mean, that stuff's so interesting. And I think the first person I heard that from was, our professional yoga therapy guru, Ginger. And even polyvagal theory, I was introduced to by her
Yeah,
when I was like, what on earth?
that's so
Why are,
fascinating.
why are we not talking about this? This is terrible that nobody's talking about this in my field.
Yeah, well, and I love that whole thing. That's one of the directions I'm heading in. One of my podcasts, I'm searching people out that have those connections. But one of the places where in moving forward with my career, I'm really into preventative medicine. I want to try to help people avoid problems. And my biggest issue that I'm finding is how do you get somebody motivated to fix a problem they don't quite know that. Like I can look at your posture and I can see one shoulder up and one shoulder down, and I can see your head tilt. And I can tell you that's going to be a rotator cuff problem. We can do something about that now. But and you don't have to be really specific, but as a mental health therapist, how do you help people find the motivation to change? I mean, you can tell people all day long, yes, A, B, and C is going to lead to D, E, and F. But do you have any little suggestions for me on helping people, be motivated or giving them motivation to fix a problem before
Yeah.
ever?
It's really funny you ask that because one of my favorite, gosh, it's not even intervention. It's a way of talking to people and even like assessing the problem called motivational interviewing.
Okay.
Is one of the things I love. And it's really a lot about identifying, like helping people identify for themselves what are the things you're concerned about in your own life. And then if you're concerned enough, then ultimately you will want to make a change. I'm not going to put any of that on you. I'm not going to say, gosh, I'm really worried about you and like your smoking habits, your eating habits, your sleeping habits. I'm just going to say, what are you worried about?
And then do you
And
help them with actionable steps towards that?
uh, eventually,
Okay.
like it's a lot of what we call building change talk first. So building up, like I'm going to ask a lot of questions. This is so therapy related in general. Like I'm going to ask a lot of questions. You're going to come to your own insights. And then if you want to make a change, I've got tools for you. But if you don't want tools, okay, see you later.
Excellent. And I mean, that's empowering. I'm going towards a health coaching type thing. I think that's what I can kind of call it, coaching and consultation. Taking all my
Mm,
knowledge from 25, 30 years of being a therapist, and trying to help people through knowledge, not only about the body, but about the things like this that are out there that nobody knows about because it's not part of the insurance-based model. You go somebody to treat symptoms as
yeah.
opposed to treating, a whole person. So I guess it's very holistic. So yeah, well, that's awesome. I really want to explore more about it. So my next question is this. I have catchphrases. I always tell people when your hips are up, it's kind of like driving a car with the front end alignment that's out, and you can get where you're going, but you're going to wear and tear. One of my favorite ones in PT is movement is medicine. So are there like corresponding catchphrases in mental health? That movement is medicine. People say yes, they kind of get, but bringing something, I think in mental health, there's so much more diversity than there is in PT and physical health. So do you have things like that, your go-tos to, turn the light on in somebody's mind?
Ah, I was trying to think of that, and I feel like it's probably more in the realm of like behavior. Um, like movement is akin to behavior. And so there we will do a lot of teaching people. You may have seen me post this on Facebook recently that like thoughts are different from feelings. First of all, when we say like I feel like blah 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 blah, that's not a feeling. That's a thought. So thoughts are different from feelings, are different from behaviors. And we want to identify what are the actions, behaviors you can take to support whatever your goal is for your thoughts and feelings. That's a very cognitive behavioral therapy approach, but I think it really um, encompasses a lot of different styles of therapy. It's just like the language we use might be different, but like, okay, so you want to do XYZ, what's it going to take to get you there? And that's a piece of that motivational interviewing idea. So I'm going to ask you some questions, see how you feel. And when you're like, oh yeah, I really want this to change. And I'm like, okay, how are we going to do that?
And I'm sure that the excitement that you're showing in your face now is part of their motivation. Like, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. They read body language as well. They just don't have, I'm sure, the expertise to say, oh, well, that's this and that's this. You can read somebody's energy.
Yeah.
I know someone said to me, well, have you ever walked into a party and just not liked somebody and not even know them or whatever? It's partially about body language. So it's great.
Yeah.
So, if you were to give one actionable pearl of wisdom on getting started on a journey to yoga, because a lot of my clients are people that, well, I can't do yoga, I can't sit on the floor. You know, I always try to tell people, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with just one step. But are there, if you had somebody that was really just stuck, or you really just thought, if you have just a pearl of wisdom you use with people,
Well,
it's
and
hard to
having
take
done,
it's hard taking, this physical therapy motivational thing and taking it into mental because I know all the patients are different.
yeah, I feel like my first thought on that is drop your assumption because we can often hear the word yoga and think of these people doing these crazy body contorting kind of things.
Mhm.
And that really reminds me of going back to this idea of like thoughts of impact feelings that we can go into like real catastrophic thinking
Mhm.
and like, I can't do that. No. And I've been doing yoga since I was 22 years old.
For like 20
So
years.
that's like 25 years now.
Right.
Oh my God. How did that happen? I don't even. Um, and what I can do now is very different from what I could do 25 years ago. It just is.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm really not doing headstands and handstands and back bends anymore. It's just, I'm also just not interested.
Yeah. I'm the same.
So, so I think that's the piece of like, maybe like, I mean, you say like movement is medicine, like be where you are and take action.
I love it. It sounds very much like how I try to tell people about meditation. Like meditation isn't about a mantra it's about making the choice to be where you are. When your mind wanders, just let yourself back to where you are. Um, if you feel frustrated, no, it's okay, feel frustrated. It's being where you
Yeah.
are and not judging it or not. In my closing meditations, I always tell people, let their mind be still. if you just got to notice it, but don't let there be a story behind that story. Just
Yeah,
let it, be something you notice. I like
totally.
becoming the observer of your mind.
Yes, yes, be an observer, like taking that step back
Yeah, there's so much,
and watching the drama as opposed to being in the drama is so helpful.
there's so much treasure there. In your practice, do you do things that, like yoga? I mean, do you use yoga for part of their healing journey mentally? Are you integrating body, mind, and spirit in clinical practice? And is that something that people are seeking you out for? I mean, is the word getting out there that this exists? If I was looking for a therapist, that's what I want. They tell me it's
Yeah,
more than just this gray matter, but I think Ginger posted something related to your body is something more than just where your head sits. And I I reposted. I think it was Instagram. But I reposted it.
cool. That's amazing. Yes, completely. I'll often say things like, because a lot of people I work with have never heard this stuff before, right? They've never heard like, oh, when I ask, when you feel stressed, do you feel like your muscles tend to pull in and up, or just in and and hunkering down? I'll ask about some like muscle patterns and where you're holding tension, and they're like, why are you asking me that? And I'm like, well, because I have a yoga background.
Well, can I?
And so I feel like that's one way I introduce things to people. Like I am not in anywhere a registered yoga teacher at all. I really decided that I don't want to teach classes. I want to use these skills in my practice. Period. One on one. It's my favorite thing. I tried teaching. Don't love it. Um, and so I feel like I use a lot of breath work, and I'll use movement practices too, especially with people who are really in their heads. I mean, I love, one of my specialties is complex trauma. And so people who from a very young age have experienced poor attunement from their families, rejection, unsafe environments, etc. Um, and so teaching people, you're living up here from your neck up. Think about it. This is like maybe 10 or less percent of your whole being. So, and that helped you survive. Cool. Now, let's get you a little more connected to your body and see if that feels safe so that you can start experiencing life differently.
So I have one more question for you before I give you a chance to talk about, how people can contact you because, there's loads of information and the ability to see therapists online now from all over the world. My question is kind of an abstract. So say you're angry. Are you team roller derby or team primal scream therapy?
That is such a good question.
I really like the roller derby part at least.
I, what's okay. Can I tell you a little story about this?
Sure.
So I really work from home most of the time, about 80-90% of the time. I have an office I go to once every 2 weeks at this point. I was at the office last week and I'm leaving, and I live in Los Angeles. It's insane here. Even at 9 o'clock at night when I'm leaving my office. And there's bad traffic for some reason. 9 o'clock at night, usually not a lot of traffic. I'm leaving and I'm trying to get over into the lane I need to be in. And somebody have my signal on, and somebody like I think two or three times inches forward to block me from moving over. And I was just like, oh my goodness. Like I really like to think of myself as a very regulated, healthy person. When I finally got over after, I don't know, something moved and that person moved up, I let out the loudest scream in my car. and it felt so good. And then I was like, okay, I'm all better.
I don't need to go home and put on my roller derby skate.
Maybe if I hadn't had that opportunity, I'd be putting on the roller derby skates. So I think maybe I'm both teams. But first, if you have the capacity and the like private space for it, Primal Scream. And then if you don't, let's go knock some people over.
Roller derby. I love it. Well, I have really enjoyed this talk with you, and it's been very enlightening. So I wanted to give you a chance to tell our audience about any kind of website programs, IG pages, places where they can find you, perhaps be able to reach out for more information about what you do.
Fantastic. Yeah. So my website for my practice, I'm part of a group practice and I am licensed in the states of California and Washington. So those are the only places I'm allowed to see clients at this time. And I do mostly telehealth. Like I said, I work mostly from home. And people can find me at pacificmft.com/Amber dash Keating. So again, Pacific M as in Mary, F as in Frank, T as in Tom.com/Amber dash Keating. I'm also on Instagram, and this is kind of tough. Like we talked about this at one point. I have Instagram has some challenges, but my main account is amber.says.shine. So Amber says shine, but with dots in between the words
I love it.
because I
Polka dot.
got locked out of my other account.
It's just polka dot. It's like fairy dust.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's awesome. We will make sure to put those in the comments when this podcast goes so that people can contact you because even if they couldn't use your services, you may be able to direct them to other people who have the philosophies that you do and that kind of care. I know
Yes.
that when I was looking for a therapist, I found one that was Jungian, or I found one that was this or that or the other thing, one that used the Course in Miracles. So that guy didn't work out, but he pointed me to somebody else. So sometimes it's just connection. They say networks, they pop up
Yeah.
that you don't even know. Anytime I'm doing something around the house, I'm asking all my patients, so who do you use for the, contractor? And I find contractors and I find plumbers.
Yeah. Totally. Happy to provide referrals. I mean, my background in social work means that I love connecting people with resources. So,
And that's the whole theme of my little talking system here and what I'm doing. I might not always be the resource, but that I'm a big foodie and I have a food blog for all the restaurants in Fort Lauderdale. So if anybody comes here, they can look up my scrumdiddly issues. But I love being a resource for them for food. I want to support people
yeah,
finding good food or finding good mental health or physical therapy. So that
that
is
is making me remember your cedar plank
the hammer.
pork loin.
Oh,
Oh
the pork
my
one.
God. So it's so good. It was
Well,
so long ago, but it was so good.
I really enjoyed it. Namaste, my friends. Thank you so much for talking with us. I hope to talk to you soon.
Yay.
Be well.